You've probably heard the saying, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, maybe until it isn't. Well, the social exchange theory talks about how and why people stay in groups unless they find a better alternative. So, it proposes that people evaluate the relationships in group and also in interpersonal relationships by weighing the rewards, the benefits of being in the group, against the cost of being in the group, the drawbacks, the things that sort of make you sort of crazy in a group, right? As you're more satisfied, you're more likely to stay in a group when the rewards exceed the costs. But satisfaction alone doesn't predict exactly if you're going to stay or not, because sometimes there's a better alternative, that greener grass on the other side of the fence. So thinking about that, this theory sort of drew out of a 1958 article about social behavior as exchange, and then was modified in a 1959, which is a very good year, the social psychology of groups, the idea of comparison level and comparison level for alternatives. So those are two concepts you want to think about. So again, comparison level and then comparison level for alternatives. So let's dive into it a little bit more. So rewards, those are the things that you get out of a group. Sometimes it's membership and fun, it's status, learning, support, resources, all those kind of things that you get out of a group. Thinking about back into the whole idea of fantasy theme analysis. Maybe a group is really fun to be around because you guys are real creative and innovative. Maybe you have a lot of money involved and the team is working really well and you win games. The costs. These are the drawbacks of membership, either in a group or an interpersonal relationship. The time it takes, the effort it takes, the stress, the conflict, those kind of things that sort of hamper and sort of diminish what's happening in your group. The emotional labor, how hard is it to sort of be a member of that group? Then the comparison level, the CL. This is your expectations. So what your sort of bottom line is, does the group meet your expectations in terms of what is providing? Do the rewards exceed the costs? And then the other one is the comparison level for alternatives. Are there other things you can do, other groups you can be in, other relationships you can undergo that would be better than the one you're currently in? Right? So think about those four concepts as we move forward a little bit. Right? So again, the outcome is rewards minus costs. So again, if you get a lot of value from a group, you're more likely to stay in that group. If you have more costs, it's more difficult to be in the group. You're likely looking for alternatives. Right? So if you have a real good outcome and you have a sort of high expectation and things are exceeding your sort of comparison level, you feel satisfied with the group. Right? Satisfaction does not equal commitment all the time. You can be satisfied with a group but looking maybe still for an alternative. So if you have low outcome, where again the costs exceed the rewards, sometimes you sort of leave for a better alternative if something is available. And then if you have a low outcome and a low sort of comparison level for alternatives, you can stay in a group if there really aren't any alternatives out there. So maybe you're staying in a relationship or a group because there are no other options for you. Right. So here's an example that might be applying to a college situation. So Maya's been in a group, study group. It meets her expectations. It helps a little bit with her classwork and testing, so she's okay with it. She gets some kind of accountability. She gets a little bit of social out of it. They're sharing some notes. There's some camaraderie. So some things are going on really positive. However, there's some certain costs in it. There's a member who's chronically late and maybe a pain in the butt. Sometimes the sessions run long. Sometimes the sessions go off topic. So all of a sudden you've got this sort of detriments in this group. Right? Based on her past experience with groups, she's somewhat satisfied with this. The study group is somewhat helpful for her. She's gotten a little better grades. She feels a little more confident in her classwork. However, a friend then invites her to another group, explains what this group is like. It's smaller, it's more focused on maybe the particular class she's struggling mostly with. So despite being satisfied with being in a group, she might move to this new group because sort of the comparison level makes it worthwhile. So again, you're gonna have to maybe talk about this theory in the podcast at the end of the semester for the last quiz. So think of a group you're currently part of, maybe this team here. That's what you're gonna have to talk about in the podcast at the end of the semester. List some of the rewards and some of the costs of being in that group. And then rate your satisfaction. Right? Are you all right with it? Does it meet your expectations? Does it exceed expectations? Or is this below expectations? And then think about it when you sort of put together the podcast in small groups. Right? Do you have any kind of groups where you've been really not satisfied with it, but you stayed because you had very few alternatives? So some of the strengths of it. It's very sort of a counterintuitive pattern. It explains why people stay in a group even though they're not satisfied with it. Right? It distinguishes satisfaction, where you're okay with the group, from commitment. You're going to look away. You see this a lot in sports. So maybe you're part of a really good team, but you want more money, so you go to a different team that can pay you more, even though the situation there, maybe the team's not as good. So you're not going to get that satisfaction of winning games, but you're going to get a lot more money. So it's broadly applicable across friendships, romantic relationships, workplaces, small groups. So that's the kind of things that are positive about it. Right? It also feels very transactional, though. It's sort of taking notes and sort of writing down things. Here's the reasons I really like this group. Here are the reasons why I don't. So today I'm going to stay because the pluses outweigh the minuses. Right? So it assumes that people just sort of are calculating these costs continuously. Oh yeah, this group doesn't really work in real world. And again, it doesn't account for factors like moral obligation, loyalty, or the fact that in this class you really can't exchange and leave groups. So some kind of situations that don't really apply here. Right. So again, people weigh rewards against costs in evaluating your group membership. Satisfaction depends on the comparison level and your baseline for what you expect from this group. Staying or leaving depends on the comparison level if there are alternatives available. And you can still be satisfied with a group but have to stay in it just because of different circumstances. All right, that's the last of the 6 little mini lectures we've had. Good luck. Take care.